We are going to start talking about Shor's algorithm from this week, or we're going to finish description of Shor's algorithm this week. We have 2 lectures and they can nicely be divided into 2 parts. If we look at Shor's algorithm, remember it's one of the famous algorithms in quantum computing and it solves factorization, and we don't have any classical algorithm for factorization in polynomial. But Shor's algorithm does it. I will explain these problems in detail, but on a slightly informal note, Shor's algorithm can be thought of as 2 steps. First step is completely classical. It says that we can reduce the problem at hand, that is factorization, to another problem which is called order finding. The problem of factorization can be reduced to order finding. That's first step. And the second step is to actually say that this new problem, or it's not a new problem. People knew about this problem much before, from long time, but it's not as popular as factorization. But even this order finding problem can be solved on a quantum computer. Obviously, when I say solved, it basically means in polynomial time. Is there a question?
So what is order finding?
Sorry?
What is order finding problem?
Yes, I will clearly explain what order finding is. Don't worry about it. But this is the overall idea. This is what we are going to follow. And today we are going to talk about first step. This is today's lecture. It's a completely classical step. So you can forget all about quantum computing today. Today's lecture, we are just going to focus about algorithms over numbers. This will test your knowledge of numbers. Yes.
What is the third step?
There is no third step.
Okay.
So, like there are multiple steps inside these 2 steps, but there are only 2 steps. We are going to talk about the first step today, and that is completely classical. So it is your test of how well you understand numbers. Okay, this is what we are going to do today. So let's talk about these 2 problems. So I should clearly define what these 2 problems are. By the way, I will assume that you understand these complexity notations in the sense that what is polynomial time, what is exponential time, and you understand that when we say that we have an efficient algorithm, we mean that it is in polynomial time of the input size. What are the 2 problems we have to talk about? The first problem is factorization, and it's not a very difficult problem in the sense that not a very difficult problem to understand. It's a very difficult problem to solve, but to understand what it is not very hard. Factorization is given a composite number n, you want to find a non-trivial factor. Of n. When I say non-trivial, what do I mean? Non-trivial means not 1 or n. And in some sense, this problem is equivalent to whatever you can think of as a factorization problem, right? So generally you would say, oh, we know from high school mathematics that every number can be written in terms of its prime decomposition, and you might think, oh, factorization should be that prime decomposition. But here I am asking only a non-trivial factor of n. Why is that enough?
You can reduce it to smaller problems of factorization.
Right. So I can do it again and again. Once I find a non-trivial factor, I can divide n by that non-trivial factor. I will have a new number. I can apply my factorization algorithm again and keep doing it. And then I will get all the factors. I will get the complete prime decomposition. The only problem could be number of factors could be large. How many factors could be there? Can you give me an upper bound on the number of factors of n?
At most log p.
What is p?
Sorry, at most log 2.
Log n.
Log n.
Log n base 2. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So it is not very hard to show that you have at most log n factors. Why?
Because the prime factorization will have primes which will be greater than 2. So
Exactly.
the least case is 2.
Right. Every factor is bigger than 2. That means ultimately, if I have k factors, then my number will definitely be bigger than 2 to the power. Right? This shows that the number of factors are at most log n. That means if I have to find the complete decomposition, I have to run this algorithm at most log n times. And that's not expensive. What is the input size here for the problem?
Log n.
Very good. Yeah, the input is the number n here. And to specify number n, I need only log n bits. That means my input size is actually log n. And that means when I say that I want to solve factorization, I am looking for an algorithm which runs very fast, which runs in log n to the power c time for some constant c. This is our goal. When I say I want to solve factorization, this is what I mean by a good algorithm for factorization or an efficient algorithm for factorization. It should run in log n to the power c time. Otherwise, if I give you n to the power c time, can you give me an algorithm for factorization?
What do you mean by n to the power? Can you repeat the question once again?
If I give you, instead of log n to the power c time, if I give you n to the power c time to solve factorization.
No, that is not efficient, right?
Yeah. So, but can you give me an
Churn out-
algorithm for factorization?
We can just churn out 2, 3, 5, 7,
Yeah.
all these prime numbers in front.
Yeah. Why even 2, 3, 5, 7? You start with 1, 2, 3. Does 1 divide n? Does 2 divide n? Does 3 divide n? And so on and so forth. Right.
Brute
Every
force.
division. Right. And that algorithm will actually run in n log n time or something. That's what I'm trying to say is that it's not difficult to give an algorithm which runs in n to the n square time or even n log cube n time. The challenge here is that we want an algorithm which runs in log n to the power c. In other words, our input size is log n. Any power of log n in our running time is fine. Any power of n is bad for us. That should be very, very clear. Generally, when we work with number theoretic algorithms, that's always the case. That's the first thing. That's why this problem is non-trivial. Great. This is the problem of factorization. The next problem, which we will reduce it to, is called order finding. What is order finding? Given a group G, in some sense, order finding is over a group G. G is a parameter of the problem. So if order, we always say, oh, order finding over group this, or finding over that group. There is a parameter, and that parameter is the group. So order finding over G is given a group G, and or I should say, order finding over G is given a G, small g, element of G, given an element of group G, find the smallest number, let's call it R, such that a to the power R is equal to 1 in G. All these multiplications are happening in the group G. First thing is this, does R need to exist always?
So it should be G to the power R, right?
Oh, sorry. Why did I say A? Yeah, G to the power R. Thanks. G to the power R. Yeah. So does R need to exist for every group G and every element small g of capital G?
No.
Yes, sir.
For example,
So Z, let the group be Z, operation be addition, and the element be 1.
cool, great. And G equal to 1, R does not exist. Assume G to be finite. Then
Then yes.
yes. And again, I assume that your group theory fundamentals are clear. So you can see that when you keep multiplying G with itself, ultimately it should come back to itself, or before that even 1. 1 means here the identity in G, in case you are confused. Right? So what is the identity in Z with plus?
0.
Right. So here we wanted some number n such that n times 1 was equal to z. Okay. Remember that when I'm defining the problem at the top, I'm taking the group operation as multiplication. That's why I'm writing it to be g to the power r. But when I'm giving the example, my operation is addition. That's why I'm writing it as n times 1, which is equivalent to 1 to the power n in group notation. These things should not confuse you. Right? So clearly in Z, such an element does not exist, but if G is finite, that will happen. Let's assume that G is finite from now. Okay. The main theorem which we are going to prove today is going to be that the problem of factorization reduces to order finding over Zn star. This is our target today. This is what we want to prove. Before I give the proof of this theorem,
What is N?
yeah, very good. So this is the that is why I said that before I give the proof, I have to explain this this statement, the statement of the theorem. Factorization is to reduces to order finding over Zn star, and as already pointed out by Diptajit, this statement is not complete. What is n? So factorization of n, if I want to factorize number n, then it reduces to order finding over Zn star. This is the theorem we are going to prove. Even then, for some people, we need to clarify two terms: reduces and Zn star. Okay, let's talk about it. What does reduces means here? An intuitive definition would be fine.
Equivalent to finding.
Then we will probably have to define equivalent, which is not, and that is not the same. If factorization reduces to order finding and order finding reduces to factorization, then that would be equivalent. Any other guesses?
Polynomial time reducible to order finding, like if we are able to so we can reduce the problem of factorization to the order finding, so that if we can solve the order finding, then we automatically solve the factorization also, and it will take polynomial time only to reduce the for the reduction.
Okay, very good. Thanks. Let's remove reduces wherever Ronak said reduced. Let's remove that, but rest of the statement is completely the definition. A nice intuitive way would be to say that assume you have a magic box which solves order finding. That magic box answers the question of order finding. Whenever you have a problem of order finding, you can say magic box, give me the answer for this G and this group and this element, and it will give you an answer. If such a magic box is given to you, then you can solve factorization in polynomial time. This is what is meant by reduction. In general, I can have two problems. A reduces to B means if I can solve B, then I can solve. Or given a subroutine for B, I can find an algorithm for A. In this case, today we will assume that we have a black box, we have a magic box which solves order finding for us. Then we can solve factorization. And the extra time, except that magic box, is not more than polynomial. Thanks, Ronak, again. That's perfect. This is the definition. Right? Now we know reduces. What is the meaning of reduction? Next thing we have to define is Zn star. Do I need to define Zn star, or all of you are familiar with Zn star? Okay, let me ask. There is something on the chat. You can just tell me directly. It's harder for me to open the chat. And okay, don't be shy. Just say I don't know. People with diverse backgrounds are here, and there is no problem in saying I don't know. Zn star is the group of all numbers less than n and co-prime to n. More importantly, under multiplication. Okay. So after Zn, this is one of the simplest groups where the group operation is not addition. For example, how many elements are there in Z4 star? Come on, you can do it quickly and then we can move on.
2.
Right? The elements are 1 and 3. Right? Here, 1 square is equal to 1 and 3 square equal to 1. Right? 3 multiplied by 3 is 9, which is 1 mod 4. All the calculations will be done modulo 4 here, and group operation is multiplication. This is the group Z4 star. Right. So we want to solve factorization of n using order finding over Zn star. Right. This is our target. Tell me what is the order of 2 in Z7 star?
What is that? Z7?
Yeah.
3.
Right. It is 3. 2 to the power 1 is 2, 2 to the power 2 is 4, 2 to the power 3 is 1. Right. 2 to the power 3 is 8, which is 1 mod 7. So again 1. This implies that the smallest number such that 2 to the power r is equal to 1 is 3. This gives me that the order is 3. What is the order of 2 in Z16 star? Sorry that your voice was not clear.
Two of them belong to 16 star. It is in prime with 16.
Okay, I could only get fragments of what that is saying, but I think he knows. It's basically a trick question. 2 is not even an element of Z16 star. This question is meaningless. Just to test whether you understand what Z16 star is. Z16, how many elements are there in Z16 star?
Eight.
Very good. Basically all the odd numbers, right? Those are the only elements in Z16 star. Okay, this should give you some idea about what this Zn star is. Just remember, we are multiplying numbers in this group. The group operation is multiplication, and this multiplication is done mod n. Star multiplication mod. Right. Now, knowing this, let's prove our theorem. Actually, before that, before we start the proof, let me just tell you the interesting thing, which is that order finding over Zn star is HSP, hidden subgroup problem over Z. This is given as an exercise to you, but you can show that very easily. This is interesting. This is in some sense showing that once we can do order finding, then we have a quantum algorithm. Once we can reduce factorization to order finding, we will have an algorithm for factorization. This is almost true because why is this not completely true?
Because we cannot always solve HSP.
Right, because Z is not, that is abelian, but it is not finite. Right? This is not finite. That's why it does not directly give us an algorithm for order finding. We need to specify how to solve order finding, and that's something we will see in the next lecture. Actually, in most of the algorithms or most of the places where Shor's algorithm is explained, like Wikipedia, they always take this HSP approach. You remember we did it last time, how HSP works? They will go almost through HSP, and you can read about it in any of the course notes or Wikipedia. I will take a slightly different approach. I will give it as a phase estimation. I will solve it as a phase estimation problem, but those two things are completely equal. If you want to see it as an HSP over Z and find a solution, any Wikipedia link or most of the course notes will give you that. We will see a phase estimation perspective. That way, you will be able to see both the things. But anyway, that's for the next lecture. Today, our job is to reduce factorization to order finding over Zn. Remember here that here the group was abelian and finite, but then the problem was order finding. As soon as we move to HSP, the group becomes infinite, and that is the problem. If order finding over Zn star was HSP over Zn star, we would be happy. We would have been done, but that's not the case. There is a subtlety in this statement which you should notice. The groups on both sides are different. Okay, knowing this, let's move on to the main theorem which we wanted to prove. What did the theorem say? Factorization of n reduces to order finding over Zn star, right? And how will we prove this? Given the definition of reduction, what are we supposed to do? We are supposed to give an algo for factorization assuming a black box for order finding.
Sir, which element you are finding the order of?
Order finding, oh, you will see that. You will see it in the reduction. The problem of order finding, you can solve order finding over any element in Zn star, right?
Yeah, that is correct.
Okay. Our task is very clear. In the remaining 50 minutes, we want to see an algorithm for factorization, assuming we have an oracle or a black box or a magic box for order finding. Okay. Let's take first few steps, which are almost constant in any factorization algorithm. We can take those simple cases out. One is we can check if n is even. Is that easy or hard? Very easy, right? I don't have to explain this. Given a number n and its binary representation, I can easily check if it is even or not. That doesn't take much time, right? How will I check that?
Check the last digit.
Last.
Yeah, so that is very, very easy, right? I wouldn't worry about it. Another thing is check if n is a power of some number. My claim is that even this case can be checked easily. Any ideas how? Let's take k to the 2. How can we quickly check whether n is a perfect square or not? Quickly means in log n time, right? The question is clear, right? No order finding is involved here. It's a very, very simple algorithm to find whether n is a perfect square or not. How will you check whether n is a perfect square or not? Quickly.
We'll use binary search, something like that.
Very nice. Just do binary search. Right? We see, oh, 1 square is less than n. N square is more than n. Try n by 2. If n by 2 square is more than n, then I will try n by 4. Otherwise, I will try 3n by 4. And I can keep doing this binary search. And ultimately, I will find out if n is a perfect square or not. And similar things can be done for bigger k. Up to what k should I check?
Log n.
Again,
Very good. Again, right? Because k cannot be bigger than log n. M has to be at least 2. And that takes care of this thing. I will have log n checks. Each check will or each loop will check if n is equal to m to the power k. For k from 2 to log n. Each of these can be done by binary search. It will be some polynomial of log n. I don't care, but it can be done. If this is not the case with n, that means now we are at a stage where n is equal to k times k prime, where k and k prime are odd, because the number n is even, n is odd. That means all the factors are odd, and k comma k prime are co-prime. In other words, there are at least 2 prime factors of n. Right? Since n is equal to m to the power k, there is not equal to m to the power k and composite. That means it has at least 2 different prime factors, and separating them out, I can write n as k prime. Both of them are odd, both of them are co-prime. Just to remind you, co-prime means do not share a common. Any clarifications needed at this point? This is the only case we need to solve now. Others, we have taken care of. Okay, so this is our target. N is equal to kk prime. Find a non-trivial factor of n. Generally, when this problem is given, I can slightly generalize it. Instead of finding a non-trivial factor of n, it is sufficient to find some number L such that GCD of L comma n is not equal to 1 and not equal to n. Question number?
No, sir.
So can be any explanation for this? Why are these two statements equivalent? Our task was to find a non-trivial factor of n. Instead, if we can just find a number L, which is not a divisor of n, but also not co-prime to n, we are done. Why?
then L and N have a factor in common and we can just factorize L. So if L is less than N, our job will be much easier.
How will you factorize L?
No, GCD actually finds that factor, right? The common factor.
Exactly, yeah. So it is not L could be n minus 1 or something, or n minus 2. I don't know. And then you haven't reduced it sufficiently to apply recursion, right? So we are not going to factorize L. We are going to find this quantity. In this case, clearly GCD ln is a non-trivial factor. You should be able to see this. This is not difficult. And we have efficient algorithms to find GCD. What can you give me the name of one such algorithm?
Euclid.
Almost all number theoretic algorithms require GCD algorithm. The way you might have seen how we take GCD in high school is not efficient, right? You factorize both the numbers and then find common factors. That's not efficient. There is a much better way. You take their successive differences and slowly you can reduce the size and find GCD. That algorithm is polynomial. There is a proof. Let's not go into that, but remember that we can find GCD efficiently. This is again classical. There is no mention of quantum. We can in polynomial time, polynomial in log L and polynomial in log N, we can find GCD of L. Let me just write it. GCD of M comma N can be found in polylog M comma N time. Whichever one is bigger, right? So can be found in polylog M time. We know how to find GCD. So then this becomes easy. Our task now is to find a number which is not divisible by n, but is also not co-prime to n. This gives us the main idea. The main idea is going to be, we want to find a non-trivial square root of 1. What are the square roots of 1? This you should be able to tell me. What are the square roots of 1?
They're of the form e to the power 2 pi iota.
Okay. So you said that, but then you assumed something, right?
Okay, I assume that it was the closure was complex numbers.
Right. And here, where are we working?
Zn star.
Right. Exactly. So we are looking for square roots in Zn star. Irrespective of n, there are always two square roots, which are
1 and
Minus
minus 1.
1 and minus 1. And that is what I mean by trivial square roots. Right? So I'm looking for b such that b squared is equal to 1. This is happening mod n. Remember that. I'm looking for a number b such that b square is equal to 1 mod n and b is not equal to plus minus 1. The claim is if I can find such a number, then I can factorize. Do you see that?
Taking GCD with p plus 1.
Very nice. The claim is that b square plus, if I can find a b, if there exists a b which satisfies this, then we can solve factorization. And as I think Said mentioned, it's not difficult. Why is that the case? If b square is equal to 1 mod n, that is basically saying that b square minus 1 is divisible by n. This is the definition of b square equal to 1 mod n. Now I can factorize. Is divisible by n. Now GCD of b plus 1 comma n will give a non-trivial factor. Why is that the case? Because we know that actually none of them are divisible by n. Right. So I should say we know that none of them are not divisible by n. Why?
Because of the second condition that b is not equal to plus minus 1 mod n.
Great. Since I know that b is not equal to plus minus 1 mod n, that means b plus 1 or b minus 1, none of them are divisible by n. That means both of them are actually not co-prime to n. Some part of n is in b plus 1 and some part of n is in b minus 1. And taking GCD with either of them will give us a non-trivial factor. Right? So you have to be careful that the boundary cases can be really, really important here. And we have to make sure that we are not getting caught into any boundary case. And that is the reason why we wanted a non-trivial factor. That's why we need a non-trivial square root. Once we have a non-trivial square root, we know that n can't divide b plus 1 completely, n can't divide b minus 1 completely. That means some part of the primes of n will be in b plus 1, some part of primes of n will be in b minus 1. Can it happen that some prime of n is in both b plus 1 as well as b minus 1? So can it happen that there is a prime factor of n, which divides both b plus 1 as well as b minus 1?
No,
No.
sir.
Sir.
Why? Anyone?
Here the only possible prime that divides both b plus 1 and b minus 1 is 2, and we have assumed that n is odd, and so 2 does not divide n.
Very good. P divides b plus 1, b minus 1 implies that p divides 2. Implies p is actually equal to 2. But n is odd. Right? This is showing actually that some part of n will be common with b plus 1, some part of n will be common with b minus 1. So GCD of b plus 1 comma n multiplied by GCD of b minus 1 comma n will be equal to n. This is not needed, but this is actually just a side effect of the algorithm. But we don't need it. Even just one factor would have been good enough for us. That's something we saw. But anyway, this is giving us more than what we. Good. Now, our task has been substantially reduced. What is our task? We want to find a non-trivial square root of 1, which means we want to find b such that b square is equal to 1 and b is not equal to plus minus 1. Okay. Any guesses how we are going to do that? For people who have seen the algorithm before, there is no point answering. If you already know it, then it doesn't help. But for people who have not seen this, I will give you 2 minutes.
Can we use Chinese remindering?
Can you use Chinese remindering? Okay. So how will you
No,
use
no.
Chinese
That
remindering?
that is not possible. We do not know the factors of n.
Exactly. How many people know Chinese remindering, by the way? Can you raise your hands? Okay, good. So at least some people. There is a question. I will be uploading this lecture on YouTube. All the classes will be recorded and will be uploaded on Hello. Yeah.
Finding a non-trivial factor of b square minus 1 mod n is not trivial. That easy, simple, right?
Finding a non-trivial factor of b square minus 1.
Means non-trivial root of 1.
Yeah, finding a non-trivial square root of 1, that's not, yeah, that's not trivial. That's not easy, but how, do we have any ideas? Chinese remindering is bad because, as you said, for Chinese remindering, we would need the factorization of n to start with, which was the whole problem itself. Right? So are there any other ways?
We can find another element which has order 2 other than plus minus 1.
Very good, very good. Right. So very nice suggestion. Deepji's suggestion is find an element A such that order of A is equal to 2, and obviously A is not equal to plus minus 1. I have used A before? No, right. So A is free. Good. And this we might be able to do because we have the magic box for order. Okay. You remember the exact definition of order finding now, right? The order finding, basically order finding over Zn star tells us that given any element A in Zn star, this is the power we have. This is the magic box we have. Given A element of Zn star, we can find smallest r such that a to the power r is equal to 1 mod n. In some sense, order finding is solving the opposite problem of what we need, right? Given an element A, it can find the order, but DPG's suggestion is find an element whose order is 2. So order finding is not really solving the problem which we want, right? It doesn't seem like this magic box. I can't ask this magic box, give me an element whose order is 2. Right? Do you agree? Do you see the difference between these two problems?
We'll have to check for multiple elements. Like
Okay,
we have to run
very
a
nice.
search, something like that.
Very nice. So why not take a random and hope that A is a non-trivial square root of, right, Ali? That was a suggestion.
Yes, sir. Actually, I was not thinking about that, but that thing is actually better. Random guess, and then just in case it works out, it'll be good.
Right, right,
That is the best.
right. So now you know the definition of randomized algorithm, right? If this is going to be a randomized algorithm, this is going to be a valid randomized algorithm, what property do we need about the group Zn star? Question. If the above algorithm has to work, some property of Zn star should be true. What is that property? Can someone try to guess? Remember.
Fine.
Sorry, Ishan, go ahead.
I don't. Okay, I don't remember the property right now.
But no. It is
Actually,
not.
I was thinking that at least some members must have order n. Like we need some kind of probability to be constant or above that constant.
Right. Very good. Right.
So I think it must be related to phi n, a property of phi n divided by n, but I don't remember it right now.
Okay. Let's not get that complicated. We don't need to worry about this. But the point is that if this algorithm, above algorithm, has to work, then we have to succeed with probability at least, let's say 2 by 3. Right. If we have to succeed with constant probability, that means there should be lot of
Factors.
Sorry.
Factors of n.
No. Lot of non-trivial square roots, right?
Yeah, means
right. So our algorithm is take a random A. So this is the random coin toss which we are allowed in the randomized algorithm. But we are saying that for most of the random A's, our algorithm should work. But if this algorithm has to work, that means most of Zn star should be a non-trivial square root of of 1, not A. But does that sound believable? Is it going to happen that in Zn star, most of the numbers, when I multiply, they will give me 1 mod n?
Not necessarily always.
Right. So this intuitively is not true, and this is not really true also. You can take n to be product of 2 big primes. People who are familiar with number theory, you can easily figure this out. If I take n to be the product of 2 big numbers, you will see that there are going to be only 2 non-trivial square roots. Okay, so I can take P1 and P2 to be very big. That means Zn star is going to be very, very large. Still, it is going to have only 2 non-trivial square roots. That means if I pick a random A with very, very low probability, it is going to be a non-trivial square. That means, yeah, this will not, our guess will not really work. Any questions about why this strategy is not working? Okay. Can we modify it? We can't hope to find a random A such that its order is 2. But what else?
Sir, can we loop over all the elements where b is not equal to plus minus 1 modulo n and find its order? If it is even, we are done.
How much time will it take? The number of elements in Zn star are huge.
Yes.
You can actually show that they will be around n by log n or something. Let me say that you want to just modify what Deepajit said. It is not very different from what Deepajit said. He was looking for elements whose order was 2. Can we slightly increase that catchment area?
Sir, even power.
Very nice, very nice. why not find A such that order of A is even? If that is the case, if order of A is even, then I can try a to the power r by 2. A to the r by 2 will be a square root of 1. That is quite clear, right? If r is the order and is even, then I can divide r by 2. That means I have the r by 2 is an integer. I can raise a to that power. Okay, I have to mention this for completeness. You can use repeated squaring to compute big powers. To compute, let's say, a to the power n. You don't need to multiply a n times to get a to the power n. So if I want to compute, let's say, a to the power n minus 1 mod n, I can do it in log n time. This is what I'm saying. Okay, this is just an aside. This means I can even calculate a to the power r by 2. And a to the r by 2 is a very good guess for a square root of 1. But the problem could be, what could be the potential problem? Suppose I find an A, suppose I find that order of A is even. What could still happen?
The count could be less.
Sorry,
The counts can be less for such element.
Okay, good. That is obviously a problem. What could be other problem?
A to the power r by 2 is plus minus 1 mod 1 n.
Right. Very nice, Vivek. Yeah. Right. You remember that we said that we have to take care of the boundary cases. Right? It could happen that a to the r by 2 is equal to plus minus 1. Can it happen that a to the power r by 2 is plus 1 mod n?
No, because then the order will be r by 2.
Very good. So we notice that a to the power r by 2 cannot be equal to plus 1 mod n, because if that happened, then the order would have been r by 2 and not r. That means, but still, problem remains. Problem would be a to the power r by 2 could be minus 1. Okay, and then obviously the problem is that such a's could be really, really less. But now we have the algorithm. Okay, how we prove that it works is a different thing, but the algorithm is there. What is the algorithm? Pick a random A, find its order. Remember, this is the important step. This is done using order finding algorithm. If r is even and say that order is r, if r is even and a to the power r by 2 is not equal to minus 1 mod n, we found the factor. Found a non-trivial factor. What is a non-trivial factor? It is going to be a to the power r by 2 plus minus 1 mod n. Right? This is going to be our algorithm. We are going to pick a random A. We're going to run our order finding algorithm on it. And then we are going to check if r is even and a to the power r by 2 is not equal to minus 1, then we will be done. If not, we'll pick another random A, and keep trying this. As Deepajit mentioned, but still we could get into this problem. The number of such, let's say, nice A's could be small. What is the definition of nice here? What are nice A's?
Order is even.
Huh?
Order is even, right?
Order is even and
Not equal to -1. Sorry.
a to the power r by 2 is
Is
not
not
equal to -1 model. Right? Okay, let me ask you a tick trick question. So there is actually one more thing which we need to explain to complete our proof in this, obviously, except showing. So the main lemma is going to be number of nice A's are big. Okay, that is going to be, once I show that, then my algorithm is fine, right? Once I show that such A, that the number of nice A's is pretty huge, then I am done. Then I will just throw my dart, look at a random A, and with high probability, it is going to be nice. That means its order is going to be even, and e to the power r by 2 is not going to be equal to -1. And that happens, we are very happy, we have found a factor, we go. So assume that this lemma is true. Assume that I have given you the proof. I have not, but assume this is true. Still, there is a small subtlety which I need to explain in this algorithm. Can someone point out what is left? Except the proof of the lemma.
You need to show that many such A's exist for a high probability.
No, but that's what I'm saying. So assume that lemma is true, right? That is the next lemma, right? The number of nice A's, right? Those are the
Yeah,
good A's.
okay.
Assume that I shown that. Then also there is a small subtlety in this algorithm.
We need to construct Zn star first.
Okay, very good point. So what do I mean by pick a random A? How are you going to pick a random? Can you pick a random A in Zn star?
We will first check GCD.
Right. So this is another thing which you have to be careful of. I have written that pick a random A, find its order in R. Now when I say pick a random A, does it mean I am picking a random A in Zn star? Or I am picking A which is...
Oh, but we can pick it in Zn and then take GCD. If we get a factor, then we stop right there.
Exactly. So yeah, I wouldn't call it Zn, but number between 1 and n, right? So yeah, so notice the subtlety. It is very hard to pick an A in Zn star, right? If we knew n, factorization of n, then probably we can construct a random A in Zn star. But otherwise, the trick would be you pick any A between 1 and n, right? If it is in Zn star, then we are done. If it is not in Zn star, then except Deepajit, anyone else? If
Pick
A is
another
not in
A
Zn star,
less than n.
sorry?
Pick another A less than n.
No. You
Just
should be
take the
really happy.
GCD.
Yeah, you should be really happy if A is not in Zn star. So yeah, I will do the proof later, proof of lemma. But if A is an element of Zn star, proceed. But if A is not an element of Zn star, then you should dance with joy.
A is a factor.
Just take GCD. Right? You don't have to go through order finding, nothing. You don't have to apply quantum at all. You are really lucky. that means, so that means this picking a random A is not a problem. The only thing we are left with is this proof of lemma.
Sir, I have a question. Under the scheme that we have discussed so far, so isn't it a randomized reduction from the problem of problem of factorization to order finding?
Yes, that is true. So
But
finally,
sir, but sir, we promised that the reduction would be non-randomized, right? I mean,
no, we didn't promise that. I just didn't specify it clearly.
Okay.
But we are in the world of quantum computing, right? That means when I say that I am giving you an algorithm of factorization, it is assumed that the algorithm is going to be a randomized algorithm.
Okay.
Right? Generally, when we talk about a quantum algorithm, that is why we introduce this field of random algorithm. Most of the time, when I say there is a quantum algorithm, except these beginning ones, right, which were kind of made to work deterministically, most of the quantum algorithms will be randomized because they have this measurement in the end, intrinsic randomness, intrinsic probability distribution. That's going to happen. So yes, you are right. It is going to. I should have mentioned it is a randomized reduction, but that's going to be the default. If not mentioned, then it is a randomized algorithm and it is a randomized reduction. And the consequence is that the algorithm of factorization is going to be a randomized. But that's good enough because classically we don't even have a randomized algorithm for factorization. Right? Does that answer your question, Anand?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Right. So you are completely right. It's going to be a randomized reduction, and we are going to have a randomized. Okay. So the proof of this lemma actually is not easy. It requires a lot of properties of number theory, etc. So I don't want to go into many details, all the details, but I want to give you some idea of how it works. And probably the idea can be given by just considering n to be p1 times p2. Okay, assume n is the product of two primes. What we will need in the actual proof is that n is equal to k1, k2, where k1 and k2 are two co-prime factors. But let's not worry about it. Let's take the easier case, and that will give you the intuition of how this works. So I should say proof of lemma for the simple case. Of n equal to p1. Even this will only be an IP. Right? Now, if n is equal to p1, p2, then actually it is known that Zn star can be thought of as the product of two groups, Zp1 star, Zp2 star. That basically means that if I want to analyze an element in Zn star, whatever its order and other properties, I should look at it mod p1, mod p2, and then cumulatively I can figure out its property in Zn star. Okay, I'm interested in the order of A mod n. That means actually I should look at order of A. So call this R mod p1 and order of A mod. This is sounds good. So order of A mod p1 is R1, order of A mod p2 is R2. And understanding if I have the control over R1 and R2, then I can figure out the properties of R. Remember, what we need is that R is even and and is not equal to -1. Okay, so first question, suppose I know order of A mod P1 which is R1 and order of A mod P2 which is R2, then what is R in terms of R1 and R2? Let me just write this question. Remember what R1 and R2 are. What is R in terms of R1 and R2?
LCM of
R1
that.
plus R2.
Right, Ishan?
R1 plus R2.
No, that is not correct. Actually, R1 plus R2, it might not be, so A to the power R1 plus R2 might not be 1 mod P1. It might not be 1 mod P2 also. Right?
It is.
What Deepajit said is the correct thing. Remember that A to the power R1 is equal to 1 mod P1 and any multiple and only those multiples are 1 mod P1. Similarly, any multiple of R2 is 1 mod P2. And if if both has to happen, that means the smallest number is going to be LCM of R1. Okay. And that means that R is even happens with high probability. Okay, the reason being R1 is even with at least probability half, R2 is even with probability at least half. Since this is the case, LCM of R1 and R2 will be half, will be even with high probability.
Shouldn't it be exactly half? R1 is even with.
No, that is not true. For example, if P minus 1 was a power of P1 minus 1 was a power of 2, then the order will always be even. Right? So it is at least half. Right? And that is something which you can, again, it's a small exercise. It basically requires the fact that ZP1 star is cyclic. Again, there is too much number theory. I don't want to go into the detail, but you see that LCM of R1 R2 is even with probability at least 3/4. And by similarly analyzing A to the power R by 2, and you can kind of see that in the proof given, the idea would be that if A to the R by 2 is -1 mod n, then A to the R by 2 is also equal to -1 mod P1 and is -1 mod P2. But then it is going to impose conditions on Ri and Rj, which is going to say that, so this implies that R1 comma R2 do not divide R by 2. Right? Since A to the power R by 2 is -1 mod P1, that means R by 2 is not a multiple of R1 and R by 2 is not a multiple of R2. This actually implies that power of 2 in R1 should be equal to power of 2 in R2. Again, okay, I'm going to too much details, but you can look at the formal proof if you want to, but this is the idea. This by this, you can analyze it and you can show that number of nice A's are actually constant fraction of total. and that will complete. Okay. I'm sorry, I don't have enough time, and I think even then it will require a lot of understanding of number theory. So if you are interested, the proof is given in the notes. It's a rigorous, robust proof of this fact, and it turns out that this algorithm works. You just look for A's such that order of A is even and a to the power r by 2 is not equal to -1. And once that happens, then we can celebrate and have a party. Right? Then we have found the factorization, or I should say a non-trivial factor of. But in all this, we assume that we had an algorithm for order finding. Next week, we will see how to find an algorithm for, or how to give a quantum algorithm that will only be a quantum part. That will be the only quantum part. Quantum algorithm for order finding. This is what we need to see. This is actually the main part, right? This is the new part. Everything else, the classical part was already known. This will happen. Any questions? Okay. If there are no questions, sorry. Yes.
Can I ask from the questions from the last class, HSP?
Sure.
Yeah, so in HSP, where you defined that quantum Fourier transform. So in that, I am a little bit confused with the notation you used.
Okay.
So let me open that.
Do you want to share your screen, Diptajit? Will that help?
Yeah, that can help.
Sure. So the class is over. You can, if you are interested, you can stay on, or you can log out. It's up to you. I will see you on Friday. If you're interested in the question, please stay on.
I cannot share it here.
Oh, sorry. I should give you permission. Okay, now you should be able to. Yeah.
So